RJ Davis is undoubtedly Carolina's best player, but is his backcourt mate the most indispensable Tar Heel?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, November 7th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. We're joined today by our good brother, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes, who, by the way, are off to a 4-1 start, all on the road. Thank you very much. Blazing, Coach. I love to see it. And you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. We want to welcome in all you everydayers, the Locked On Tar Heels insiders, and of course, all the Locked On Discord members. It's great to be with you. Let's get right into it. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Coach, here's what's coming up on the show today. Let's paint the roadmap out ahead, and then we'll get right into it. Carolina had some incredible offensive moments on Monday night and some less than incredible moments on Monday night. So we want to look at this offense and how maybe you can play better against zone offense and what does it mean, all of that, and what level of that is, hey, it's opening night. Yeah, whatever. And then, Coach, the other thing is we look ahead to the front court. I think your quote to me the other day was, we need a beast in the front court. So my question back is going to be, who is that? Is that person on the roster? But Coach, here's where I want to start our conversation today with none other than Carolina's point guard, Mr. Elliot Cadeau. I want to have a conversation about what he did on Monday night, the consistency we've seen from the preseason to now, and just how important he is for this team. So, Coach, let me just pose to you right out of the gate the question I asked in the cold open. I think it's clear and obvious RJ Davis is the best player on this team. Anybody who tries to defend that, you have no ground to stand on. But I think looking at the prism slightly differently, could we say that Elliot Cadeau is the most indispensable player on this team?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt in my mind. RJ is obviously the MVP, and he's the Rolls Royce, but Elliot's he's the engine. And he's the one who really gets the pace, and he's the one who dictates everything. And the defense is going to be designed to stop RJ. Keep the ball out of his hands. You have to have somebody else be able to make decisions and get everybody else involved. And that's what he's done such a great job of. We've talked about it ad nauseum about him being able to shoot jump shots. And we talked about his jumper. But more importantly is how he gets everybody else involved and making everybody else better. And I think that's why he's indispensable. It's not the fact that he needs to score, but he needs to get everybody else. He's the engine. He's got to get all the other working parts moving in the right direction. And I think that's what makes him indispensable at this point.
Yeah, I mean, to use your metaphor there, Coach, a Rolls Royce with no engine in it just sits there on wheels and doesn't move and might as well go to a museum and not be any good to anybody on the road. But if you want to drive around that bad boy, you need that engine in good working order. So I'm just riding that metaphor to death there. And but I think it's an apt metaphor, and I think it's very helpful. I mean, Coach, I just even look at what he did on Monday night. Let me just remind everyone of his stat line. In 32 minutes on the floor, he had 17 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Don't miss what a jump that is from last year. 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 blocks, 3 steals. Coach, so it's a little bit of a Danny Green everything in that, right? And I know that 7 of those 8 assists are the first half, so we need to talk about what changed in the second and how we grow from that. But I mean, Coach, my man Elliot is doing a little bit of everything here. And in terms of the early returns on the 3-point shot, because that's probably the most talked about part of his game, it's not just here. We saw it true to form in the blue-white scrimmage, at Memphis, and in the Johnson C. Smith exhibition as well.
It's a weight on your shoulders if you start slow, especially with shooting percentages. So to start in the way he has, both at the line, both lines, free throw line and 3-point line, it's just nice to look at the stat sheet and all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a good shooter. Instead of saying, well, I need to make that next one so I can get my percentage back up. He doesn't have to feel that pressure now, and I think that's, to me as a player, I'm thinking, man, I can just go relax now and just go play. I don't have that stress on. And I think that's what's big about having a great first game like this. But like you're saying, it's the stat stuffer that we're more impressed with him being able to rebound, to defend, to get steals, the blocks. Nobody's expecting him to do that. But when you're active and he's just flying around the gym the way he does, he's going to make plays. And if I learned one thing from my internship with the Mavs, it was all about players got to make plays. And that's what he's doing right now. I don't care who the competition is. I know his first game. I know it's Elon. But at the same time, he's just making plays.
Coach, you said something interesting there that I want to follow up on. You talked about like the weight that's on your shoulders that's lifted when you start well, and then you're not having to worry about like playing catch up with your percentage. How can you make the mindset shift from a results-based thought process to a process-based thought process? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I think so. The mentality, the mental side of the game is so strong now, and everybody's focused on numbers. When you're not shooting it well, I think it's important not to look at the stats as much. I'm a numbers guy. I want my guys to be numbers guys. I had a guy a couple years ago. I asked him, do you know what you're shooting from the 3-point line? He had no idea. He was still shooting and hoisting him up from 3-point line, but he had no idea what his shooting percentage was. And I'm like, man, if you're going to shoot in the 20s, you got to pay attention to your numbers, and you got to know what's a good shot, what's not a bad shot. So I think that weight, that's just that mental side of things. You just got to be able to process it in a different way, and just, again, be confident. And just to be able to see him knock down that first jump shot as confident as he did, I think that just, you could almost hear the collective sigh in the gym, in the arena when he made that shot, and people were like, oh yeah, it's going to be a different year for Elliot this year.
And it was the others too. I mean, like, I love the lack of hesitation of just there's no waiting. He's shot ready, and then it goes in. Coach, while you were talking, I did the math and aggregated the blue-white game, Memphis, Johnson C. Smith, and Elon in those 4 opportunities. And I know it's 3 games that don't count in Elon, but still, you can either shoot it or not. Elliot is 7 of 10 from 3 in those 4 contests so far. That's, I think, percent. Like, I would take that at the rim, much less from the 3-point line. So that's great. Now, Coach, I think another part of Elliot's game that I want to ask you about is the fact, remember last year, he was pretty prone to fouling or being in position to where refs were calling fouls on him. In this first game of the season, commits just 1 foul. And if my memory serves me correct, and I'll look it up to verify as you're talking and responding here, drew the most fouls on the team. We're used to that being Armando Bacot, foul drawer extraordinaire. In this game, it was Elliot Cadeau. How important is that? Just in, he's got to be on the court a ton, so he can't be committing fouls. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment to how the game is played. We played 5 games, like I said, this year, but we played 2 in Florida and 2 in Indiana. 2 totally different officiating crews, 2 totally different styles of game. And before both games in both states, we talked about being able to adjust to how the game is being called. And just knowing it's going to be different probably in the Midwest than it's going to be down in Florida. It's going to be much more physical in the Midwest. They let us play. And I think Elliot's got to figure that out now. And once he's obviously adjusted to the speed of the game and to the length of the game, and all those things come into not fouling, getting good angles, knowing how to handle your hands, staying in front of people, being able to use your chest more, all the little things, and staying away from those cheap little fouls. And I think that's also a coaching thing. You sit there and say, hey, man, you get in those defensive spots where you maybe don't have an advantage. Maybe just back off and don't reach in and don't necessarily foul. But we also have a concept about calling foul for profit. If you have a guy on you who's not a great shooter, and instead of giving him an easy one to put him on the line, make him earn those 2 too. So in his situation, a lot of guards shoot better from the free throw line. Maybe that's not going to be a foul for profit situation for him, but he's got to figure all that out. It's just part of his maturing as a college player.
I love that concept, fouling for profit. You only get 5, so you got to make them count. And every now and again, it's worth it to give one of those up. Coach, looking at it, Elliot and RJ Davis were actually tied for the most fouls drawn on Monday with 4. And I like too, you mentioned his defense there. I feel like we saw some glimpses of the grit, his defensive grit last year, his willingness to mix it up, dive after loose balls. I thought we saw more of that. And frankly, from all three of the starting guards, Elliot and Seth and RJ, really being willing to get up into guys defensively. And as you've talked about, that's going to have to be part of the DNA and a calling card for this team to succeed at its height.
Definitely. I think the more pressure they put on the ball in the backcourt, it shortens those possessions. Then they don't have to play defense in the half court as long. And again, I've been talking about this for a long time, and I have no input. I would love to see them pressure the wings more. I'd like to see them trap more, even in the half court, not necessarily press full court, but I'd love to see them really ramp up the intensity in the defensive end and really try to cause more havoc. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later too. Just they have to find ways to get easier baskets instead of just walking the ball down the floor, especially in teams that play zone and teams that want to try to control tempo. So I do think it starts with those two guys, especially, and of course Seth and his ability. Those three guys set the tempo defensively for them, and I'd love to see him do more. The old school run and jump type stuff, or trapping first pass or trapping ball screens, all those little things that it takes a lot of work. You don't realize how much work and practice time it takes, but I definitely think the return would be worth the investment.
That's well said. We've had quite a few financial conversations here already. Fouling for profit, worth the investment. Coach, I think you might need to go play the stock market when we're done here today. Anyway, folks, Coach said it, and that's exactly where we're headed next. The North Carolina offense bogged down at times on Monday night, and also particularly when Elliot Cadeau was on the bench. How can Carolina find more consistency and easier baskets? We're going to have that conversation coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY when they're checking out Robinhood Gold on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change, and gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets when you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more right there on that same page where you place your bets. Hey, we've got the Maui Invitational odds now from FanDuel. UConn, as you probably expect, has the best odds at plus 170, followed not by the Tar Heels, but by Auburn at plus 310. Then Carolina at plus 400 and Iowa State at plus 430. Three of those four teams are on the same side of the bracket, by the way. If you want to get in on that action, visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started again with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and go make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Coach, we just finished our conversation about Elliot Cadeau with some defensive talk. I'd like to switch back to the other side of the ball now. One of the things that was certainly a factor on Monday night's game against Elon was that Carolina was facing, frustratingly, a zone in night one. It's not something you see very regularly in college basketball, as you've often talked about. That's part of why it's like, hey, let's try some other defenses. But we're talking to offense right now, Coach. And so I think one of the things that you really kind of had in mind coming out of this game was how Carolina could be more efficient, specifically with their zone offense. Oh, sorry. Hang on. We got to start that over. I had muted you while that's my fault. I'm going to just start that whole segment again.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All good.
We ended, Coach, that last conversation talking about Elliot Cadeau and some defensive side. I want to switch back now to the offensive side of the ball. One of the factors at play on Monday night was the fact that Elon was in zone essentially throughout the game on Monday, and that led to Carolina having some moments where they were really good offensively when they could get out and run. There were times where that points per possession was up 1-3, 1-4, but there were other moments, Coach, where there were some clear and obvious droughts, like a man in the desert thirsting for water. So, how, Coach, can the Tar Heels start working on better efficiency against that zone or against zone when they're on offense?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to look at is why. Why did our team's going to play zone against it, and try to counteract the why with our reasoning for playing the way we play. And the biggest thing for me is to get RJ moving more, to get the ball moving more from side to side. He stood a lot. They did get the one lob, which was fantastic, and the announcers talked about Hubert had talked about that. But that lob is one play, and it can change the game. But got to get more consistency on a regular basis. So to see the ball go from side to side movement, the ball get to the high post, attack it from there, get the ball back out. Those are the type of things I'd like to see more. RJ just needs the ball in his hands. When your best player has the ball, good things happen. So it doesn't necessarily means he needs to get more shots, but he needs to be making more decisions. Maybe he's the one at the top of the key. Put Elliot on the wing against the zone a little bit. He's been shooting the ball well. Give him opportunities there too, and allow RJ maybe to make people better. Just some ideas that just mix things up a little bit. But you've got to see the ball go side to side. You've got to get the zone to move. That's when the gaps happen. That's when defensive breakdowns happen. And then allows, Elliot getting from the wing, getting into the paint is just as positive as getting in there from the top of the key. And maybe it's a little bit easier over there off a ball reversal and closeouts to be able to get that there. But just a couple ideas that we try to do to be able to get that zone to move back and forth.
I love the idea, Coach, that you talked about with getting RJ to be the ball handler more in those moments, because he's so shrewd and so capable at manipulating a defense with his eyes or ball handling or whatever it is. And he's not just going to settle for I'm going to dribble around for 5 seconds and then hoist a three, right? Like, and he's also not somebody that freaks out when there's 5 seconds left on the shot clock. He's going to continue to probe and then hopefully draw some defense and can get it up to the lob position, as you talked about, to the dunker position. But one of the issues that we saw Monday night was Carolina would just pass around a little bit, not with the side-to-side intentionality you just talked about. And then when it gets down under 10 and the refs recognize it with one another, then the ball goes to RJ, and then it's desperation time, and everybody's like, here you go, buddy, go make a play. So how do you flip your mindset to doing those things earlier in the shot clock so that you're not waiting around if you have to get into the half court set?
Yeah, one of the things we like to do is run a secondary. And we've gotten back into running a lot of Carolina secondaries. We have a zone secondary that we run to be able to get a shooter through to the corner and get a little ball reversal and get some penetration out of it. And some of the same actions we use against man will work against zone to be able to flash somebody to the high post. I would like to see Elliot go to the high post some to be able to catch it there. And it's his decision making from the high post. I know Drake got there a couple times and caught the ball in the high post. I like to see him be a little bit more aggressive catching and attacking. He kind of caught and wanted to look to make those passes. I'd love to see him catch and just rip it and go and attack somebody at the rim. Ball screens still work against the zone. I would like to see maybe some bigs, kind of roll up from the baseline and set some high ball screens, and you're just trying to get the ball to the paint any way you can, either through the pass to the high post or off the dribble. But that type of thing breaks down the defense and allows that extra pass for a wide open shot, whether it's a layup or a jump shot. So those are little actions. I just hate seeing three guys on the perimeter throw the ball back and forth to each other and everybody standing around. It just drives me insane.
Especially for a team that wants to play fast. That's not helping you achieve that end. And that's the problem with that. Now, I don't anticipate Kansas will do anything with that on Friday night. They're a man team that Bill Self runs, and they're just going to do their stuff, right? So I also, like somebody said in our Discord chat, Coach, on Monday night, like, oh man, all these teams are going to start playing zone against us now because we didn't handle it well. Coach, I would say two things to that, and then I want to hear your response if you think I'm off on this or not. teams that don't play zone aren't going to suddenly switch and play zone just because they saw Carolina not do well against Elon in zone. If you play zone, you play zone. If you don't, you don't. Number two is the fact that at some level there was some night oneness to it. And I'm curious how much of that, Coach, you think is like, yeah, it's game one. We're still feeling it out. And we're out here trying some stuff. We're out here trying lineup combinations and come what may with that. So, Coach, I'm curious your response to those two things. Both teams that don't play zone aren't going to suddenly switch to zone, and then the night one of it all.
Yeah, the first thing is if you're going to do what you do best, and teams that play zone, some they'll do it, but the teams that play a lot of man, Kansas is not going to play any zone. They're just not. Um, that's not what they do. They don't practice that. That's why the zone can be effective sometimes against teams that don't play zone because they're not practicing it. They haven't gone over their zone offenses nearly as much as they go over their man offenses. That's just the way the nature of it is, especially early in the year. Zone stuff kind of takes a back seat early, and then you kind of make sure you have it as it gets in the middle towards conference player, and definitely towards the end of the year, you're going to make sure you have everything. But that's one of the reasons why it works so well. First game, I'm saying there's some jitters there, especially some of those freshmen that are expected to play, like Drake, like Ian, first time, with the crowd. And you are, as a coach, trying to work on different things. Let's see what lineups work. Let's work on a couple different things. Let's try some things out, especially in the game. Elon's good, first of all. Let's get back to that.
That's a good point.
They're a good, solid team. They are going to do well this year. They are very well coached. Coach Taylor's a great job. Ryan Saunders is a buddy of mine, and they do a fantastic job. So let's not get away to us just playing a bad game. Elon's good. I mean, obviously Carolina's got to be able to take care of them. But in a situation like that, but you still are working on things. You're working on lineups. Look at the minutes that the bench played. We've been talking about the bench minutes for 3 years now, and he went deep. We had, guys, I think Cade, Tyson, if off the top of my head, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, something like that. But you're still playing 8, 9 guys, significant minutes, and everybody's been clamoring for it. Well, they got it. You got those guys, and now they're going to be expected to play those type of minutes every game, and you'll see the production, especially from the young guys, go up.
Yep. Cade was 16.5. Ven-Allen Lubin 17.05, Drake Powell 17.23, and Ian Jackson 11.5. That's obviously going to go way up those minutes. And so, yeah, Coach, I think it was one of the charts I keep is bench percentage minutes, and I think Carolina was around 32% of minutes from the bench on Monday night. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking backcourt stuff so far today, Coach. I want to flip our attention to the front court. Carolina needs someone to just go be a dude in the front court and mess around a little bit. But the question is that player on this year's roster? We're going to have that conversation coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about hymns. Well, fellas, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and you always want to be ready because you don't know when it's going to happen. Well, Hims provides access to treatments that help give you that boost of confidence so you're going to be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. This process is 100% online, so there's no need for those awkward, uncomfortable doctor's office visits. If prescribed, the medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging, I might add, for free. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked-on. That's HIMS.com/locked-on for your personalized ED treatment options. The products mentioned are chewable compound products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required, and prices may vary based on product and subscription plan. Coach, we're going to end our show today by moving from what we all perceive as Carolina's main strength this season. We've talked a lot of backcourt. We want to move to the front court. And as you and I were texting in the day after Carolina's game against Elon, one of the things that we mentioned was Carolina needs a beast inside. And So my question to you, Coach, is this: is that person on this roster?
I think the guy I want to be that beast, and he's not the tallest guy out there. He may be the toughest guy though. Is Ven-Allen Lubin, and I just love his game. He doesn't need to touch the ball to play hard. He can change the game with offensive rebounds with just his toughness inside. He doesn't need to throw it into him a bunch of times, but when you do, he's still going to make good decisions in there. And I think I would see him getting more minutes as the season goes along. It doesn't mean Jay Wash's numbers have to go down. I still think he's more of a 4. I think he's more comfortable out there on the perimeter. That doesn't mean he can't block shots. Doesn't mean he can't defend. It is different, and they've got to figure this out as the season goes on. Those minutes will change around a little bit. So he's my guy right now. If I had to say that one beast inside, it's got to be Ven-Allen Lubin.
So I've got 2 follow-up questions. I'll start with this one. You mentioned, he's the beast you're looking for, but he doesn't have the requisite height that he needs. I think he does have the weight to throw around. So can he punch above his weight class with his height, right? Does his wingspan, does that like heft that he has allow him to do that well? Or is he going to be overmatched going up, let's say, Hunter Dickinson on Friday night?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to use his smarts as well. He's going to have to get angles. He's going to have to get guys out of their spots. He's going to have to force Hunter Dickinson's hook shot instead of being 5 or 6 feet. If he can push him out to 8 to 10 feet, it changes that shooting percentage dramatically. And that's where to meet him at the foul line instead and let him get to the post and using the strength. And let's be honest, football low man wins. And you get a guy who's 6'8" and his size to be able to just be low and be strong, I think could be just as valuable. He just can't let those guys get to their spots. And I think that's the biggest thing he's going to have to fight for.
I like that. I mean, a great example in Carolina's own thing is Willie Lampkin is rated by PFF as the best guard in the nation right now. Hasn't allowed a sack, and homeboy's like 5'8", coach, and he's out there doing it for Carolina's offensive line. So yeah, Ven-Allen Lubin 6'8", 230 listed. And let's also keep in mind we haven't seen Ty Claude in action yet, right? And so I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see his first minutes Friday at Kansas because he brings some experience, also brings some of that heft. So, Coach, I mentioned I have 2 questions coming off of what you said. My second one is this. You mentioned really Jay Wash still feels to me like more of a 4 and Ven-Allen Lubin is a 5. We saw the starting lineup on Monday be the 3 guards, Seth, RJ, Elliot, along with the Jalen Withers, Jalen Washington, with Jay Witt functioning more as a 4, Jay Wash functioning more as a 5. Do you see a world where you could play Ven-Allen Lubin and Jay Wash together with Jay Wash functioning as more of a 4? And if Ven-Allen is indeed able to punch above his weight class and be that starting 5, could that front court work for the Heels?
Yeah, I think it could. And again, secondary stuff, Carolina system, 2s and 3s basically running the same position, 4 and 5s run the same position. If you have somebody like a Drake Powell who can play the 3 and the 4, he's got to know the 2 through the 5. And very similar. The more flexible you are, the more positions you can play, the more time you're going to get. And I think Jay Washington, he just wants to play. Let's be honest. He just wants to be on the floor. So he doesn't care if it's the 4 or the 5. And I think sometimes matchup-wise, he has that advantage being at the 5 because he can step out and shoot over 5s. But at the same time, he's got quickness and he's got moves, and the 4 is not anything that would be uncomfortable for him. So if that's the best lineup, and again, we're sitting here guessing what practice looks like. I think we all thought Cade Tyson would start at the 4 during the summer. I'm trying to make assumptions here that maybe he hasn't shot the ball particularly well in practice, and maybe that's why he's not starting right now. But I'd love to see a big lineup with maybe him at the 3, and Jay Wash at the 4, and there's a bigger lineup, and we're going to see some big lineups, some, and again, we've talked about this too. Love to see that group play zone some, with the length and the size that they have, and the ability to for Jay Wash to get out to the corner and guard some of those smaller guys. I think it could be very effective. So it's something I think we'll see somewhere. I don't know when, but I think somewhere along the line we're going to see some different wrinkles defensively.
Yes, I'm curious to see what Coach Davis has been holding close to the vest that we will see unveiled and when. Like, are there things he's been holding for Friday at Kansas? Are there things that he's going to hold on to until ACC play or for Duke or whatever it, right? Like, it's hard to know. And so that's another thing to remember about Monday night is Carolina's not showing their whole playbook, to use another kind of football analogy there. And so we'll wait to see on that. Coach, one more thing I want to ask about this front court, and then I'll see if you've got any other ideas and we'll get out of here. You mentioned Wash's ability to draw defenders outside. Is that another way that Carolina could offset some of the lack of the beast that you're talking about, or having a dude, is by just running some of these more lumbering 4s and 5s to death, draw them out and do that, or, cause them to get some ticky-tack fouls on the perimeter? Is that a way to potentially hide some of these deficiencies?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to see him do is, and this is going to sound ridiculous to some people, but I like to see him post up Seth Trimble. And
Ooh.
it doesn't matter.
Just invert the court. Yeah.
And part of that is you just need post play. You just need somebody you just need easy baskets. And it's not like he's going to have a height advantage, but he's going to have an athletic advantage inside. And for him just to be able to drop step and get people off balance and get to the free throw line, you just need easy baskets. You just need something inside every once in a while. Everything can't be a penetrating kick. And maybe it's Drake Powell playing the 3 and being able to post up some, or even Ian just playing the 1 and playing against a smaller 1 and posting up. I got to watch Chris Corchiani in high school, the old NC State, he just unbelievable player. But I think he did nothing but post up the entire high school game. He went 19 for 20 from the free throw line. I think he scored like 24 points. But they just inverted everything. The post players made post entries. Something you got to work on. Those guys haven't worked on that in their career and their lifetime. Haven't worked, feeding the post. But it's an idea to be able to get something inside close. We had a kid when I was at Montreat years ago, MJ Joku. He was 6'2". He was our best post player. We threw it into him as much as we could because he was athletic, he was smart, he knew how to draw fouls, and he made free throws. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that beast inside to be able to get you some points. It can just be somebody who's smart and understands the game.
Well, and also similar to what we said about the zone defense earlier, it's not something you see often in college basketball. It would be a paradigm shift, but it is like something we see in the NBA often, is guards going into, but like if you've got post skills, I don't care who you are, let's utilize them and let's make the most of that. Coach, I like that thought process. All right, gang, we're going to get out of here. It's been a great show. A lot of fun conversations today, from Elliot Cadeau to how to make the offense a little bit more consistent, and then this front court conversation as well. If you enjoy, listening to Coach Rob and all his great insights, let me encourage you to go get his book, Carolina Basketball School, which is available now on Amazon. You can get it from him directly if you'd like to get it signed. I'll remind you that Christmas is like, a month and a half away from now. What a great Christmas present it would be for your favorite Tar Heel fan, or even better for your favorite NC State or Duke fan too. And so I'm sure they would love to have Carolina Basketball School on their shelf. So go ahead, make sure you check that out as always. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please do so on video and audio so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there. It's a great place to be a Tar Heels fan. Very safe, great conversations all the time. It's free to join, and the link is in the show notes. Same is true of the Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program. If you want to go deeper with Locked On Tar Heels, you get to text me directly one-on-one, have some great conversations, and free access to all of my stats and charts and data that I update literally after every game, so you can find out at any moment's time. Where is how many more 3-pointers does RJ Davis need to break the record and be the all-time Carolina 3-point shooter? Well, you can go find that out right now by looking at it. If you want to join that, the link is in the show notes for that as well. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be right back with you tomorrow to get ready for that Kansas matchup. Gonna be a doozy. But until then, peace.